Thank you so much for joining us for our kind of roundup to bring the energy together, to bring it to a close, this incredible few days of conversation, of discussion around empathic leadership. So thank you for joining us. Hello to Oscar and Jennifer, Trude, I hope I'm saying that correctly, Laure and Yvonne. Thank you so much for being with us live. It's absolutely amazing. And I hope that you can engage with us and give us your 2 cents on everything. I think the more information and wisdom that we have on this topic, the better. How's it going? Lovely to see you all. Here we go. I just wanted to give you a visual of the question, because I know when it's me thinking about these things, I like to kind of look at it for a few minutes. Okay, so where shall we begin? Let's ask what one insight you have gained from this summit. Shall we begin there? Can everyone see the screen okay? Yeah, okay. I'll take it down again in a few minutes so we can see each other properly, but it's just to give you a chance to kind of absorb that question, especially our guests. I'd love to hear from our guests to see what you've taken away from the summit. Please put your comments in the chat, and any questions that you have for us or for one particular speaker or for all of us, please put those in the chat as well, and we will get to those in a few minutes. So can I go to you first, Sarah, because you're there beside me on screen? What one insight or feeling or energy have you gained from this summit?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, thanks so much for all the work you put into the summit, Sinéad. It's been really great, and I think it's so timely, this topic, right? It's no surprise that we're all here talking about empathy. For me, I was, obviously there was a lot of big picture takeaways, but one really tiny but so important to me takeaway is that I'm going to bring plants back into my office. And I think it was, I couldn't remember, I think it was Linda who shared that.
Yes, it was Linda,
on the first day.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense, because I'm really on this trip to reconnect with nature. And yes, going outside is obviously still my choice, but preference. But I'm like, yeah, why not bring the plants into my office as well? So that's my one actionable takeaway.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that was actually, a few people had commented on that, wasn't it, in the chat as well? And it's like, yes, it's so important when Linda was talking about like empowering our space, empowering the energy of where we're working from. And it's so crucial and it affects us so much. Okay, fantastic. What about yourself, Val?
Thanks, Sinead. Yeah, I was only able to attend a few because I'm in the United States, and so I'm going to have to go back and look. But
Brilliant.
The ones that I was able to attend, and I just got so inspired that, I'm a solopreneur. I work from home, so I'm not, out in the world a whole lot other than with my clients. And so to be touching in on people from all over the world who are bringing empathy into their work and into society to counteract all the negative messages and all the, toxic workplaces and things. It just felt inspiring, and I felt like, hooked into the whole movement from this. So that's my big takeaway, is just feeling part of a movement. So thank you, Sinead, for doing that.
Brilliant. That makes my heart sing, to be honest, Val, because that's exactly what one of my
it worked.
Like, we're all in this together, aren't we? We're all in all our work every day. It's the movement, all the small pieces of work we're doing and the larger ones. It's a movement every day. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, love that. Thanks a million. Alicia May.
Hello, thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you for Sinead for your amazing, amazing work. I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't watched anybody yet because, as you know, Sinead, it's been a lot for me the last couple of days. But I did attend hours as I was there, and so for me, I know we spoke about it, that there is this theme with other people's conversations with that word harmony, and it's like harmony in the workplace can still mean success. It doesn't mean, we've been conditioned that having harmony, it's not about being peaceful. It's not always about being calm. Like, you can get shit done and still be harmonious. it's about balance. So, you know, it's really important with us having these conversations and going into workplaces, whether we're entrepreneurs, consultants, or employees, it doesn't matter where we are. It's just bringing that sort of harmonious energy, that balance, you know, and for me, we've had these decades of like, go, 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 do. So let's bring back that balance as we've all been talking about, whether it's making your environment nicer, you know, if we can't go out into nature, just bring it inside. You know, that's one reason why I did a lot of nature-based artwork over the years. It's like, right, well, let's how can I bring it inside, and making that space, environment, whatever environment you're in, as comfortable and as balanced as possible. You know, and my theme is about fun. You know, we've been conditioned that in the corporate world must be serious, we can't have fun, when actually it is all about fun. Like every day should be about fun, because there's always going to be pain, there is suffering in the world, sadly, but it's like, let's try and bring back fun in our environments, because it does make a big difference. And it's not about being immature, it's not about being irresponsible and jumping on the tables in the boardroom, it's not about that at all. It's just allowing ourselves to have fun and be happy in what we do.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I love that. You always bring that energy with you, Alicia. I love it. And fair play, like, because I know you've had a lot on your plate this week. And you are definitely in for a treat with the chat, with the talks. You know, I've obviously listened to them all and been there for tech issues and, you know, comments and the chat. And it's been such a pleasure just listening back, you know. Yeah, you're in for a treat. Fantastic. Okay, what about you, Patrick? Did you get a chance to listen to any? I know you're a busy man as well.
Yes, I did. Thanks, Sinead. I think this is, for me, it was really, really wonderful. You know, I'm a physicist. I work in a male-dominated environment. And, you know, I've been working with you for a long time now, just trying to figure out a sort of a framework to the organic leadership that I've been trying to instill within this framework, as you know, as the field of physics is trying to be more diverse. And what I really enjoyed, actually, just even preparing for the talk, actually sitting down and going through that, and actually, you know, putting in the actions of what I've learned. But then what I love when I always talk with you is that it fills in what I'm doing in a sort of 5-part harmony. That's the way I like to put it. And, you know, everything from, you know, Claire's talk on nutrition, you know, I thought it was really, really good. And then Kirsten's talk, I really enjoy that on ADHD, because, you know, that's quite prevalent where we work. You know, I work with a lot of people who just don't want to be managed. And we have to manage people and sort of corral these cats with all different types of brains, you know, into projects and getting things done, you know, that haven't been done before. So my takeaway from this, you know, even one of our actionable items is that we had a meeting yesterday about plants. I'm gonna put that back again, because in the you know, the Canadian government now, it's all open place, and it's awful, it's sterile. So that was an actionable item in our meeting yesterday, is that, okay, everybody bring in a plant and we'll just put them around the outside of the office. So again, my takeaway is that, you know, I call it the 5-part harmony, and you know, so for me, it's very reinforceful of what I've been trying to do, but also learning that there's a lot more for me to learn as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Patrick. Can't believe the plants came up again. Like, isn't that mad? Yeah. And I had a funny kind of an intuition that I had to put Linda's talk first, which is, I just kind of thought, you know, setting the scene, setting the environment. But it's probably something we underestimate far too much is our environment. So great point on the plants. And I love the 5-part harmony. I love the way you describe that. We just get each other. We just get what people are trying to say. And the more conversations we can have like that, I think the more influence that we can have as that kind of the royal advisors that we naturally are, as I like to describe us. Amazing. Okay, what about yourself, Alicia Ward?
Thanks so much, Sinead. Yeah, I mean, what an incredible summit. I like my namesake, Leisha. Hi, nice to see you again there, Leisha. I haven't caught up on all the talks yet either. Have had a very busy week. But what has really struck me is just how impossible it would have been to do this on your own. You know, that's my one insight, is that, you know, we are not meant to be doing any of this alone.
Yeah.
And things feel harder when we do try to do things on our own. You know, like Val, you're saying you're solopreneur, and it can feel like, am I the only one that wants to do this? Am I the only one that thinks this way? All this kind of thing. And I think that is a dangerous place for us to be, because we are social beings. We are, you know, part of nature. If you look out at nature, again, the nature theme, right? We easily see that it's a mutual support system. We're all supposed to be helping each other. And so that's so apparent to me with like having all the chats and the group messaging that we've had behind the scenes, just that this is a group endeavor. So yeah, that's my one sort of insight that I've taken away. And I guess in terms of like a practical tip, I would say that, you know, if you've got great ideas, something on your heart and your mind that you want to share, just be thinking about, you know, who's one person that I can share that with. You know, even if it's like, you know, quietly behind the scenes initially, that is how things get born. You know, and, you know, like having like more than one person's energy behind something can really get things going a lot faster. Like, you know, us all together, it's a movement, right? So yeah,
That's
fantastic.
brilliant.
Thank you so much, Sinead.
Oh, listen, thanks, Alicia. Like, and it's so true, you know, I often refer to it as that little gem in the back of your mind. Like, tell somebody about it. Don't hide it for too long, because it's part of your calling. It's part of your purpose. So that's a fantastic practical tip. Tell someone about your amazing ideas, kind of thing. I love it. And you're right. Nobody can do this alone. None of us can walk the path alone. It's impossible. And the more we get together, I think the better, for sure. Brilliant. Barbara, what about yourself?
Hi, Sinead. Hi, everybody else. So what I see is that there is a huge need for empathic leaders. And the whole world is changing. The way we do things is changing. The workplace is changing. The society is changing. And I speak to so many people who are either very confused or in the wrong place, doing the wrong type of job, feeling misplaced, thinking, oh, I don't want to do this, but I don't know what to do next. And they look for leaders. They look to leadership. And I think the empathic leader specifically has a leg up because of our empathy and because of the fact that we understand where people are coming from, usually because we've gone through something similar and we've moved through it and we've moved out of it. And we now feel this calling to step up and lead people who need leadership. And I think that that is an important message. And that's why I love this summit, because I can see it everywhere, the need for this. So thank you for organizing it. It's been amazing.
Okay, thanks a million, Barbara. That's brilliant. And actually, it kind of makes me, like, I've appreciated the talks, as I said, listening back to them. And I realized myself that, like, the lens of empathic leadership is it's infinite. You know, there's a different interpretation from everyone's point of view in terms of what empathy means to them, what leadership means to them, how they come together. So it's not like a one size fits all. It needs to look a certain way. So absolutely, I think the more voices on it, the better, is the point I'm trying to make.
It really is about authenticity and stepping into who you really are. And I often talk about the rules, the bullshit rules of life, about how things are supposed to be and who you are supposed to be, or how you are supposed to act, or the things that are expected from you in, well, most facets of life. And it's more about discovering who you really are and what works for you and where you stand for and what you want to do with your unique talents and gifts that only you have. And it's time, I think, that more people discover and tap into this authenticity. I agree.
Okay, fantastic. Lovely. Thanks so much. Claire, what about yourself?
For me, acceptance, I think, was the powerful word that I got from the talks that I was able to see, especially listening to Patrick and just hearing more. And because I figured out I was a kind of HSP once I became a solo entrepreneur, and you sort of think, gosh, if this information was being widely publicized in schools or workplaces, how differently would we see our differences? You know, we've seen a shift in talking about neurodiversity, but to bring in about empathic leadership and being able to listen and sort of open up conversations where people can feel seen and heard. How would that benefit the culture and change the culture in such a positive way, instead of some of, you know, I think of some of the workplaces I've been in and the negative culture around being seen as slightly more sensitive and the negative connotations to that. But like a lot of the people who are talking, we work with clients, and I think having that ability to be more empathic and see things in a different way enables our clients to feel seen and heard, which I think brings such incredible value to them.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Claire. Thanks a million. It's so true. When we use our powers, we empower everybody else, kind of thing. Yeah, yeah, love it. Okay. Bridie, what about yourself?
Yeah. One of the themes for me, it's actually been something that you say, Sinead, and it's a theme through watching other people's talks. So I watched yours, Alicia and Val, and it at the same time, Sinead, you're sending out these emails and it's in your footer, and I have it on a post-it note on my wall, and it's bravely be you. And I just think that
Getting out there.
it just summarizes the theme and the vibe, whichever word you want to use, throughout everybody's talks. And it kind of links to what you were just saying, Barbara, about being uniquely our individual selves, and we can't lead until our feet are on the ground as ourselves, rather than trying to merge into what we think a leader looks like. I think so many of us can try and cookie cutter ourselves when we're stepping into this role as business owners or leaders, or whichever role it may be. But actually, that's often a time when we lose ourselves the most. But actually, it's the time when we need to find ourselves the most. And so to hold kind of steady onto being bravely yourself is just the theme that I've got through everybody's talk. So thank you, everybody. It's been absolutely amazing.
Oh, thanks.
I'm already a big plant mama.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Like behind me is like a forest. But I greatly appreciate that too. It does make a big difference to your working environment. So maybe there's space for one more to squeeze in.
Amazing. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm so happy that the Bravely Be You is resonating across the board. That's amazing. It's something that's driven my work for a long time. I kind of hold that philosophy at the heart of everything that I try to do, you know. So thanks, Bridie. Brilliant. Our last speaker, I think, is Kirsten. Kirsten, what about yourself? How has your experience been for the summit?
Well, so I love all of the comments everyone has made. I think that one thing that my biggest takeaway is that representation matters, right? We each got to see other people. We're here now, and we get to know that we are part of other, you know, a larger movement, like you said, but we also are, it's a real normalizing force, right? And so, of course, my talk was around neurodiversity. And what we want to all know about, like, our differences, right? We are bravely be yourself and compassionately be yourself, right? We don't want to beat ourselves up about our differences. We want to embrace them, and then we want to lean into the strengths that we have, because each of our own wiring and our personality and our strengths are all different. And if we lean into them, we're gonna, you know, lift everybody up with us. So there's that kind of idea that the power of knowing yourself isn't selfish. The power of knowing yourself is actually a really altruistic act that you're having, because then you get to take kind of that wisdom and knowledge that you have about how you are set up and how you're wired and how you work best with your plants or your nature, or some people work best in the city environment, right? But then you get to take that idea that you are unique, and then you get to translate that to, oh, and they are unique, and they are unique. And am I curious about how they are different than me? And am I curious about how they work best? And then I get to be a good leader, and I get to lift them up through their own uniqueness, and then we just all benefit. You know, the rising tide raises all ships.
Fantastic.
So,
Yes. Brilliant.
so
And
it's
I just love the curiosity. I think if we can follow our curiosity, it makes such a difference about ourselves, and then we can offer that outwards to others for sure. Amazing. I love it. Would any of the rest of our lovely guests here with us like to give us their 2 cents today? You're more than welcome. Please come on screen if you'd like to give us some of your insights on your experience. No pressure though. It's totally up to yourselves.
I'm happy to. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Laura, is it Laura or Laura
Yes,
or?
Laure. Yeah, Laure.
Oh,
Yeah,
Laura,
hello.
French. Okay,
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes. No, thank you. And I'm the same. I haven't unfortunately been able to listen to all the talks, but I will watch the replays. I watched a couple, however, so I'm not an empathic leader myself in terms of a definition. I'm a coach, career coach, transition, and I learned a lot. And I think what is important for me to take away here is that it is important to be aware. It's important to understand the differences, and even to seek out and let people tell, me in as a coach to really tell me their differences, and to be interested in what makes them unique, of course, but more sensitive. What is behind that? And it really is an eye-opener also as a coach to be curious about that specificities that people not necessarily tell you about or see as everyone is like this, or I'm so different, so it's interesting for me to be aware and more knowledgeable about that. So I'm certainly going to listen to your talks and to learn and to read about it more, because I think it will only help me to become a better coach, more aware, and when talking to organizations also to put this forward as well in terms of culture and inclusivity and diversity. I mean, it's a big topic, but I think people are not often aware of HSP and how it can impact people's behaviors, feelings, emotions, performance, and so on. So yeah, very interesting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, and you're right 100%. And actually, Sarah has taken the words out of my mouth there in the chat. You absolutely are a leader, an empathic leader, Laura. If you're out there and you're coaching other people and you're empowering them and holding space for them, I think you are 100% a leader. So I agree with that, Sarah. Val has also said a coach is a kind of leader. Okay, so we're all coming out with the same message. Okay, well, maybe is there any comments and questions, Bridie, that we should revisit there? Have you had a chance to?
No, it's just I feel like your radio co-host. This is wonderful.
It's great.
There's just wonderful comments. I mean, everybody's just on board. I feel like we've started a mini movement. There's just lots of words of just such kindness and how important all of this is. Alicia, you just popped a comment. I think it's wonderful to have a space to watch the replays, and so many summits don't have that. So it's really great that you do.
That was something that I kind of was like, oh, how will I set this up? And I kind of thought HSPs don't like to be rushed. They don't like to have to absorb too much in one day, but at the same time, I didn't want it to go on forever. So I kind of, put it into the 3 days, but absolutely, like, I think that these recordings should be kind of gold that we bring forward, and we can all use in whatever way we want to. We can use little snippets from them to continue to communicate the messages from the incredible conversations that have been had. So yeah, great point. Thanks for pointing that out, Alicia. And it's true. Like, if I attend a summit, it can get very overwhelming. It's very hard to take it all in. So it's there for sure to be enjoyed. Okay, great. So if you have any questions, those of us who have joined us, please pop them in the chat. if you have any specific questions for any of the speakers or any general questions. We'll do one more round. Alicia has kicked us off with her incredible tip. So we'll maybe ask for everyone else's incredible tips now in terms of those practical, what did I say? Practical tips that we can offer for leaders and professionals to take impactful action towards a more empathic and inclusive workplace and society. I really came up with a big question, didn't I? I was like, okay, let's get a broad question, but it's quite big. So in other words, share your thoughts on the tips that maybe we should be offering in general to leaders and professionals. And, this is something I will capture and definitely be putting into, blog posts and different ways to get the message out to people. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen so that we can just come back together that little bit more easily. Okay. Laura has to go. Okay. Thanks a million for joining us. No worries at all. Great to see you. I'm all for the movement. Trude says the world needs to know we're here. Yes, absolutely. With you there. Amazing. Okay, so Val, could you maybe give us an insight into a tip you think we should be sharing with the world?
Great, thank you. Well, I'm a business coach and for HSPs especially. And so I notice that no matter how much we can talk about, like, yes, follow your heart and heart-centered business and authenticity, they still come back to, yeah, but I still have to do that icky sales stuff or that icky marketing, or I have to push myself to do this. And so I just want to remind people that icky stuff, anything that your heart goes ick, you don't have to do that to be successful. You can, so if it's an ick, you drop it. I always say, drop the ick and follow the fun. And fun to me is a sort of a way of saying your heart says yes. Like, oh, I want to go that way. And so my point is you can still be successful with this empathy at the core and this authenticity. I think that's where it's like, oh yeah, sounds good, but I still have to do this thing in order to be successful. So I'm like, no, those can come together. So that's my practical tip. If you feel the ick, drop it. It's not necessary.
Wow, I feel really moved by that, to be honest, because I think it's something that a lot of us have been doing all our lives, some level of masking, some level of trying to fit in and pretend to be, or whatever you want to call it. And then in business, it's often a case of like the shoulds and what we should be doing, so drop the ick. Fantastic tip. Love it, Val. And if anyone wants to respond, just pop your hand up and we'll, if you want to respond to anyone's point, just don't hesitate to do that. If I can see everyone that is on the screen. So thank you, Val. Absolutely amazing. Oh, Barbara, do you have a response to that beautiful point?
Yeah, because that's what Val said is exactly what I meant with the rules, the bullshit rules of life. Those are the shoulds and the musts. And I take inspiration from the first business coach I ever had. He said my website was built 20 years ago. I don't even know what it looks like because I never look at it. He's never on social media, so he doesn't do the constant content pumping machine. And he has so many clients that he has a wait list. So what you're saying is so valuable because it's about finding what works for you. And nowadays we've been conditioned that in our modern time, you need to be visible. And that means you need to go with the trends. And then you need to have a TikTok and an Instagram and all the other new things that I don't even follow that are coming. But that is not true. It's only true for you if you indeed get this feeling of, ooh, I like this. I want this. Then it is your thing. But if you think, oh, God, no, then please stay away from it. So really, really great tip, Val. I love it.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. Great response. Thanks, Barbara. Maybe you'd like to share your tip with us now that you're there.
Well, it's very much in line with what Val says, but it goes a bit deeper. It's really getting to know yourself through and through, because then you can decide what strategy works for you or what you should be doing. If you are much more an introvert, 70% of all highly sensitive people are introverts. So doing Facebook Lives every day oh God, or doing these 5-day challenges, 21-day challenges, webinars, masterclasses, or workshops, that everybody's been promoting, where you need to be front and center, including all of the work that comes with it. Yeah, that's not great for introverted, highly sensitive people. And I'm being very kind when I say it this way. So you need to discover what works for you and how to tap into your audience, but also where is your audience? Because even if you force yourself to create a TikTok account and to go all in on your videos and your reels and such, but if the clients that you are trying to reach are not on TikTok, then you're not only wasting your time and your energy, you're also not getting the results that you want. And then you feel like, oh, I've been working my ass off and I have nothing to show for it. And a lot of us then sort of take it internal, thinking, oh, what's wrong with me? Or what am I doing wrong? Or what do I need to change? And then they go for a new course, a new coach, or whatever. Well, that is not the problem. And so it's a combination of doing what comes natural to you, in a place where your ideal client actually is.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Bridie is responding. Trends can be a killer to our flow state, 100%. And it's so true. If you're stuck doing something that doesn't feel right, that's not. I would say that's not aligned with who you truly are. Get out of there for sure. True to say, it's actually wrong for extroverts as well if that is not the very thing you want to do. Absolutely. Even for extroverts, I'm kind of in between somewhere there, that ambivert area, and yeah, I don't want to be out peopling all the time. You know what I mean? It's just not going to work for me. Even though I love to be with people and I'm very social when I'm there, it's not going to flow all the time. So yeah, totally. Sarah has a point there. Sarah, would you like to pick up on that? Because I know this is your world as well. Point.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just echoing what Val already said, and Barbara. It's like, if it doesn't work for us, then we should listen to that, even if all the mainstream marketing and selling and business advice tells us it's not true, right? Because we've been conditioned for years and years and years about how business and success should look like. And so now is the time to make our own rules and base them on our values and our worldview. And so that's why all this know ourselves is so important, because then only then can you create a business that is based on who you are and what works for you and what doesn't. So that's why I said, question all your assumptions. So assumptions that we constantly hear in every webinar and masterclass and, all the 6-figure, 7-figure, and all this kind of business advice. Well, question all your assumptions of what you should be doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I see Sylvia here, or Silva, sorry. A lot of people can do a lot of things, but you should do what it is that only you can do. Let others do the rest and focus on your unique perspective. This is my personal motto. Fantastic motto indeed. Okay, so Sarah, taking all that into account, what is your maybe top tip, in terms of I suppose the marketing and sales point of view?
Yeah, I don't know if it's related to sales specifically, because I was just thinking, what's my number one takeaway is not takeaway, but tip, actionable tip, right? I recently said in another conversation, I said people are addicted to realness right now. So we talked a lot about authenticity and just, stop masking. So that's what people want. We want to be real. And yet, if you look in most business settings, things are not real. Things are still kind of like putting up a dog and pony show. So that's what we got to do. And that's why I was telling Laura, you are also a leader. So whatever role you're in, we are now asked to be brave, courageous leaders who show up real, who do things differently. And one way I'm doing that, and that I think could be, a tip that's easily implemented, is by doing a check-in every time you have a group or a client, do some kind of real check-in, not just how are you? Oh, I'm great. How are you? But more like what's going on for you, and then hold the space for that conversation where people feel like, oh, this is very different, especially if I'm looking at Patrick, like if you bring such conversations to a workspace where people are not used to be real, that's where the change happens. That's where people go, wow, that was really different. So yeah, I think that's where we need to step into that leadership and show up as real human beings who have bad days and just are concerned about what's going on in the world. All these emotions, we need to create space for them. So that's my tip, to have a real check-in.
Real check-in. Okay, lovely. Thank you so much, Sarah. That's brilliant. Okay, will we move on? If you have responses to that, pop them in the chat. Bridie, what's your top tip for leaders, for professionals?
My top tip is to schedule in time to decompress, but to reframe it in your mind, which I love, because Alicia, you just wrote something that completely flipped the script for me. And so it's reframing things. So instead of thinking this is time to rest and restore, and I have this feeling of, actually, no, it's my time to re-find my power and repower up. And so I'm more likely to give it more time in my schedule, and I'm going to prioritize it and not see it as a weakness, but see it as time to re-find my strengths. So that kind of decompression breath time, reframing it in my brain to power time and scheduling it in as an absolute non-negotiable, because we've all read Atomic Habits or have heard of it, but that compounding interest of not doing that will really, really bite you in the bum later on. So just as much as having your morning coffee and tea or whatever it may be, schedule that time in. That's my tip.
Absolutely fantastic tip. Yeah, like that's energy management. That's looking after yourself. That's self-care, and protecting the holistic experience that you're having, for sure. And I love
your
the way
brain breathe, though. Like the brain needs a breath too, not just the body. And
that's why I love how you've reframed it to call it a power up. It's actually a power up, because you might call it a power down, wouldn't you? Decompression. It's like all this kind of letting go or not doing, when in fact it's just as vital as the doing. Just
absolutely.
as vital. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, brilliant tip. Thank you so much, Bridie. Patrick, what's your tip for us?
I'm just thinking here, we've a wonderful array of business leaders and solopreneurs, and I'm thinking all very enlightened. I'm just thinking to myself, what would it be like to manage this as a team? What would the challenges
good
be?
question.
Would that be the ultimate team? Putting together, or is that what we're striving for? People knowing themselves, but also being able to work together. And as I said, I work in an environment that wants to change and is trying to change. So I think it's not being afraid to bring those conversations to the table. I said we're going through the changes with the government, and I just threw it out. I said, let's put a survey out of how many sensitive people we have, and 50% of people responded: light, sound, smell. And that started a conversation. It's really, really started a conversation about, in these changes, okay, if we build it in from the start, we acknowledge we might know what to do with it, but we're building in an acceptance and an acknowledgement from the beginning that there may be challenges. And with this conversation, so many people have come up to me and said, oh, I didn't know that was part of me or my partner. So it started the snowball effect of a conversation that people didn't really know that they either had or didn't even think about it. So my top tip is don't be afraid to have the conversations. Just, as I say, bravely be you. Go out there, take that risk, say it, ask the questions, see what happens.
Wow, amazing. I can't get over the 50% that has come through. So what was the question there? Do you mind me asking? Like 50% of people identifying with some element of sensitivity, is it?
Some element of sensitivity, and then, let free form put it in. And that's what people came back: lights, sound, smells. And people, the conversation, people said, I just thought it was me.
Yeah.
That's what people would say. I just
Oh my
thought it
God.
was me. And when you see the spreadsheet with 135 names and 50% with light, sound, smell, that just even kickstarts a conversation.
Wow, isn't that brilliant? So well done to have brought that together, that data together, because at least then you can present that in conversation, maybe with decision makers or whatever it is. I mean, it's just amazing. Like, it doesn't shock me, because we know really that at least 30% of people are highly sensitive, but it's the kind of the canary in the coal mine again, isn't it? It's the fact that, like, we're going to feel it more acutely, more deeply, and more readily, but all humans will experience it to some degree. So, I hope they're going to listen to 50% of people now, for a change. Do you think that it will be heard now that you have gathered this data?
Yes, we're trying to figure out quiet zones. We're trying to figure out quiet
Okay.
rooms, trying to figure out breaks, sensory breaks. Just there's conversations. There's no budget. So people are actually saying, okay, well, how can we organize the space? How can we organize these open spaces? How can we organize small spaces? And it's just a conversation right now. And at least there's an awareness. And to me, I feel that it will bring a lot less tension, a lot less, let's say, trouble down the line, because people have thought about it up front.
Yeah.
The organization doesn't know what to do, but at least it's acknowledging that there may be an issue.
Amazing. It's just so much to celebrate just in that. It's fantastic. Alicia May, do you want to respond to that perhaps? You've put in a point there about neurodiversity.
Well, yeah, because it's like, when you think about when we were kids and when we were younger, I was told externally, well, you're too sensitive, you're too this, you're too that, well, you're the one that's different, you're the one that's wrong. So then that becomes your programming. So our default, is always like, well, I've got to fit in, like I've got to morph myself. And it's like, I must be the problem, I must be what's wrong. And then it's not until we go through, not all of us, but we go through adulthood and we go through therapies or, where we're trying to figure out who we are, what we are. And that's when we realize, actually, we have all these sensitivities, we have these, superpowers. And then we start realizing, and like somebody else has just said, somebody says, oh yeah, no, that bothers me too. Whereas when we're younger, it doesn't seem to bother anybody. Because I'd be like, does that bother you? And people would say no. I'm like, okay, well, it's just me then. But now we're getting older and we're voicing and we're owning who we are. We're now hearing people saying like, yeah, that really bothers me. And it's like, I've noticed it with my friends probably in the last year or so. I'm really owning who and what I am. And then they're now saying, oh yeah, I've been noticing this about myself. And I'm like, why didn't you say this 20 years ago when we were like in school or, whatever the situation was? So it comes back to understanding. But, as I'm on the speaker, my tip, I've got a few, but it's really like people are like, oh, you need to know yourself. How? Dialing into your values, and that takes time. Knowing yourself isn't a 6-day process. It doesn't happen in 6 minutes. It might not happen in 6 months. It's an evolution thing. So it's like dialing into your values, and that can take time, because you've got to realize, okay, am I making that choice out of conditioning, out of programming? Is that how I'm expected to think and behave and be? And it's like coming back into the body, in my heart. It's like, oh, what makes me sparkle? What makes me joyful? Again, it's that fun word. It's like, what feels fun in my life? What excites me? What lights me up? So it's knowing what your values are. And what for me was a game changer is knowing my personality type. Don't do the online courses as in tests. Talk to somebody that knows the Myers-Briggs stuff, because that was the game changer for me. Because twice I did it, I was the I, because I am very introverted, but it turns out I get my information externally. I have to respond to external. So I came up as a different personality type. We're probably all going to be idealists here as well. But it's knowing your personality type. You then know how you function, what your strengths and weaknesses are. It's there on paper. And then there's an ownership that takes place. It's like, okay, so this is how I biologically function. I can't do anything about it other than nurture it and go through life knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are and harnessing them. And the other one is your human design. That was a game changer for me. And talking to chat GPT and putting it all together, that has blown my mind. It's like there's themes, and it's just, it really is about knowing yourself, but using these things. You can't do it on your own. It's really impossible because of that programming and that conditioning and that, you know, really naughty, unhelpful voice that we have inside of us.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. They're amazing tips. So dive into your values, explore your personality type, and explore your human design. And I suppose I would always say it's all just information that you can gather, that you can interpret, and nothing is ever set in stone, and you're always going to know yourself better at the end of the day. But it's these tools help us to explore all of that. Isn't that right? I know there's a few people into human design in the room. Does anyone want to respond to that? Barbara, I thought you might. All right. Barbara kind of is an expert in about 100 different modalities.
I thought I was already raising my hand, but apparently I clicked something wrong. But yes,
don't worry.
I recognize what you're saying, Alicia, and it's very true. I loved the Myers-Briggs, but honestly, every time I fill in the questionnaire, I end up on a different type. And what I've noticed is that a lot of us, we are not very good in tests like this because our answer usually depends on how we are feeling in the moment. And I think that is also what's causing the fluctuation. So sometimes I am an ENFJ and sometimes I am an ANFJ. That one I can still explain, but sometimes I'm also an ENTP and I go to a completely different set, or an INTS, or whatever options are there. And that was always something that baffled me. The beauty of human design, and I specifically combine it then with the gene keys, is that it's based on your birth time, your birth date, and your birth location. So there is no fluctuation in it, like with the Myers-Briggs test, because it's factual knowledge. And then it answered every single question I've ever had about myself, about my life, about my business. And when I combine it with the gene keys, I get great insight into my shadow patterning, my wounding. I get an option to heal it also, but it also tells me about my business. So I discovered that I was working really, really hard to build the wrong type of business for me. It was right enough to pay the bills and to keep me going for the last 12 years, but it was wrong enough to never really take off until I learned this fact and shifted in my business. And now everything's effortless. And I understand how my energy works. I understand how my decision making works. I understand why I feel certain ways. I understand why my life has been the way my life has been. So it has been incredibly eye-opening and game-changing for me.
Amazing, right? Okay, so the gene keys as well. I'm not familiar with those at all, so I definitely have to look into that. Yeah, human design has, like, I've only scratched the surface and I've learned a lot. So, you know, I'm excited to kind of dive deeper there. So incredible tips across the board there. Claire, what are your top tips for us? I'm keeping my eye on time. I hope to get, we'll finish up on time. I'll do my very best.
So I'm just going to go really practical with what I do, but balance your blood sugars.
Balance your blood sugars. Love it. Okay.
At the end of the day, a lot of what we've been talking about, that stress from masking, maybe not being your authentic self, will dysregulate your stress system over time. And so just think about the things that you need to kind of calm your stress system down. So there's a lot of the practical things I think have been mentioned, like plants or nature, but I'll just give one tip of keep balanced eating and balance your blood sugars, because that's a great place to start as well.
Okay, so that's the main tip in terms of our physical well-being, then influencing the rest of our experience, do you think?
Completely, because if we're on a blood sugar roller coaster, it impacts cortisol levels, which then just cascades. So if you just come back to what are you eating, how are you eating it, keeping your balanced plate, that kind of, well, what I find with myself and my clients is that's half the battle. Get that balanced, and then you can figure out the other stuff, like mentally, because it'll impact how you're feeling, because obviously if your gut's improving, your mental health improves. It just has a knock-on impact.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so very very fundamental tip. You know, it's kind of like get the plants into the office and balance your blood sugar and everything else will follow. I love that though. It's really, really useful. Thank you so much, Claire. And Kirsten, I apologize. I'm coming to you last once again, but you must have a beautiful tip for us to finish off.
No worries. And I'll tell Claire, I am wearing my glucose monitor currently. I am learning to balance my blood sugar. Well, I think that one thing that as highly empathic people we may forget is just because we're good at something doesn't mean we have to do it, right? That's always, and so you might feel like you have some obligation or duty to keep doing this thing you're so good at, and you don't have to. If it's not working for you and you know yourself well, like all of you wonderful coaches have talked about, you don't have to keep doing it. And just like everyone's talked about, looking at values in your skill sets is important. But I do want to add on your sense of purpose, right? What is your why? What is your reason for, serving the world? And are you in alignment with that? And then you can drop the other stuff, right? So I'm all into subtraction. Let's just not have, take away the things that aren't really benefiting us and be ourselves. So
okay,
we'll end with that.
That's
yeah.
Brilliant. I think it's really key that your point about like, just because we're good at something doesn't mean that we have to keep serving the world with that thing, and people can get caught. I see that all the time. People get caught in a certain career trajectory kind of thing because of that, because they're like, oh, but I've always been good at this and people always told me that I was, but then if it's not sustainable for someone, if it's actually draining them, for sure they need to subtract it. I like that idea as well. So brilliant, Kirsten, thanks a million. Do we have any comments or any questions before we wrap up? There's just general chat, I think, which is brilliant and very active there, which is great. Yeah, anyone else want to make any points before we go? I don't want to miss anyone's, if they have a point to make, Okay, 5 seconds. Okay, we're all good. We're all good. Barbara said, okay, no, that's part of the chat. Okay, lovely. Well, look at, I don't know how to thank you all enough for such an incredible few days. And thank you to everyone watching the replay. And thank you to all the other speakers who couldn't be with us today. I hope you're all well and safe. I know there's crazy weather going around the world at the moment. So wishing everyone the very best. And yeah, a big thank you. Let's go out there. Let's lead with empathy and bravely be you. Always my final message. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sinead, for your great leadership.
Thank you so much, Val. Absolute pleasure. See you later.